Hi, this is Josh.
And this is Sam. Welcome to a quick podcast episode. Welcome to a quick podcast episode. I don't have time for the helpful introduction, so here we go.
Alright. That's I should have checked where we left off before. So much admonishing Red 2 as he was using the opportunity to refocus all the pilots, on the task at hand. Case didn't know what she thought of Red 2. His time on the stick was misleading. He'd flown for the Empire, trained on ties, had flown before that doing what she didn't even know. He was one of the few pilots on Yavin who could claim to have logged flight time in an A-Wing. In case you're curious, that's actually a bit of a retcon. Originally in Legends, A-Wings weren't even created until after A New Hope, explaining why they don't show up until Return of the Jedi. Rebels ignored that, as it did with a lot of Legend stuff. General Syndulla vouched for him. Everyone who had flown with him said he was the real thing. Whenever he spoke to Case, he always called her ma'am, was always polite to the point of shyness with her crews. And he was almost a double ace already. Case could almost feel sympathy for any Imperial TIE pilot who found himself in Wedge Antilles' crosshairs. Sometimes it was the quiet ones you had to watch out for. The only pilot Case genuinely wasn't sure about was the new Red 5, Luke Skywalker, unknown flight hours. Prior to Scare, Red 5 had been Pedron Gull, 952 flight hours, 1 confirmed kill. Ooh, only 1 confirmed kill. Poor, pathetic Gull. Awkward and eager and still rated as a cadet, he died over Scarif, disintegrated while attacking the shield gate. Like so many others who had died over Scarif.
I thought about this. Yes, he does have 1 confirmed kill, but yeah, he's not going to last against Darth Vader, who has 1,000 confirmed kills.
Wait, where was that written?
It wasn't. I'm just guesstimating since Darth Vader is the greatest pilot in the galaxy.
Indeed. And high above them at this moment, Case knew that so many more would die over Yavin. Actually, I think proportionately speaking, not proportionally speaking, but numerically speaking, canonically, and maybe the writers will decide to retcon this, they're in control after all, the number of pilots who died at Scarif is probably higher than the number who died at Yavin. With an effort, she pushed herself off her perch and landed with another clattering of the tools at her waist. The battle was about to be joined. She needed to be in the command center for this part. The Grey followed her, waiting for its moment. The pilots know the truth. They are the women and men who test their skill, their mental fortitude, their physical strength, and machines that ward even a moment's inattention or complacency with cruel and oftentimes fatal retribution. They put their lives on the line every time they go up, whether in combat or outside it. The glory they wear as a result is bought dear and much deserved. To fly in combat is to tax the body in ways that even the most battle-hardened ground trooper will never understand. It is physically exhausting, the pilot responding to constant stress, acceleration, deceleration, the very events of artificial gravity and true gravity, the rank funk that rises from the cockpit after a battle is heavy with sweat and adrenaline and fear, all cooked in an atmosphere of recycled air and overheated electronics. How descriptive. Sorry. It's going to be a stretch to find things to say here because once again, this is another Battle of Yavin story and it's the longest one yet. It is mentally exhausting, demands constant situational awareness and multitasking. It requires a mind's-eye picture of the battlefield in 3 dimensions, constantly in motion, a macro-level view that no computer will ever...
A mind's-eye view, huh? Don't you mean a splinter of the mind's-eye view?
But empty-ish, indeed. a macro-level view that no computer will ever adequately replicate. It requires an obsessive, relentless attention to detail, a total understanding of not just the pilot's own vessel, but how it is responding, what it is trying to tell him or her, but also of all those that surround it. Yet when viewed from afar, the pilots and their ships are seen not as a cohesive unit, but rather as a mass of individuals. They may hunt in a pack, but the belief is that every pilot flies alone. But the pilots know the truth. The pilots know this. They never fly alone. Well, asteroid droids. Every time they take to the skies or the stars, the pilots take their flight crews with them. Every flight, they carry with them the men and women who made it possible. The men and women who poured heart and soul into not just caring for their team, but into caring for their pilots themselves. On Yavin 4 at Base 1, each Rebel fighter was served by a crew of 5 or 6 personnel, depending on the needs of the ship and its pilots. Logistically, that meant that every flight crew worked triple.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you about the story about the Rebel pilot that flew on his own, just him and his astromech, without a squad, and was all like, I don't need a squad, I don't need any backup, I could do this on my own, I could blow up the Death Star on my own. He didn't make it.
Poor guy. Thus, a single ground team of 5 was responsible for Goal 2. Dex Tyree, 3,237 flight hours. Ace for 5 confirmed kills. I think we read about him earlier. Red 9, Nazo Natan, 1,060 flight hours, 3 confirmed kills. Wait, now I need to do research. There are way too many of these to keep track of. And Red 12, Puck Nico, 5,879 flight hours, double ace, 11 confirmed kills. These teams served both the fighters and, by extension, the pilots in a relationship that was intensely personal and oftentimes intimate. Ship, pilot, and crew became one. When a ship was lost, when a pilot was lost, the crew remained, and they grieved. For Nara Case, it was worse. Every ship, every pilot, and every member of the ground crew was her responsibility. From the astromechs to the ordnance loaders to the mechanics and up to the pilots themselves, they belonged to her. That was her job. Chief Nara Case, fighter boss, Base 1. Her flight crews, her starfighters, her pilots. Her being conveniently off screen during the original movie. Like I said.
I just thought about this. An X-Wing pilot gets their X-Wing fitted. He's all like, great, now I can join the fight on Yavin. He takes his X-Wing off, then the mechanic realizes, hey, wait, I haven't installed the... It's too late. He lifts off, and then kaboom, kablam, the X-Wing blows up. The pilot dies screaming, and then the mechanic just responds by taking off his hat and doing this.
That's good. She carried with her every pilot fallen in combat, and she carried their crews as well, bearing their grief atop her own. Their sorrow when their pilots failed to return. Their self-reclamation and self-doubt. All the hours lost wondering if there was something more that could have been done, or should have been done, or worst of all, something they failed to do. Another tweak of the deflector shields, an extra boost to engine efficiency, a higher cycle rate on the laser cannons. Anything that would have brought their pilots safely back home. Narracase had lost 15 ships and 19 pilots and crew in the past week alone. It had begun with the mad scramble to put Blue Squadron onto target at Edo. The flight of 7 X-Wings and 2 Y-Wings quickly scrambled at General Draven's order for a hit and run. Alright, so recapping stuff from Rogue One. This really makes me sad that we never got, new prequel trilogy novelizations because Disney doesn't want to touch that era with the 10-foot pole. And it's really a shame because, retelling those stories with the additional context provided by, say, the Clone Wars would be pretty interesting. 2 never came back. Less than 36 hours later had been the Battle of Scarif.
No prequel trilogy book could match the beauty and magnificence that is Revenge of the Sith by Matthew Stover.
Well, we're going to have to read the other novelizations anyway just to get the complete set. Less than 36 hours later had been the Battle of Scarif. 2 of Blue Squadron never made it past the shield gate protecting the planets. Another 2 were shot down over the beaches, including Blue Leader. General Antok Merrick, 22,542 flight hours, quadruple ace, 24 confirmed kills. You really shouldn't send generals directly into combat like that. They should be safe on the capital ships anyway. 11 more fighters, mostly out of Blue and Red squadrons, had alternatively been shot down by Imperial emplacements, destroyed by TIEs, or taken by the pilot's worst enemy of all, bad luck. Seems Gold Squadron made it through fine, though. 15 ships, 19 pilots and crew, in just 1 week. Nobody under Naracase's command was untouched. Some of her crews had suffered multiple losses over the course of a single day. She had suffered them all. It was
yeah. She didn't suffer as much as Leia. Leia lost her home planet. And worse, Leia's future daughter lost both her brothers.
Okay, but I'm not really sure how that's relevant to this particular situation.
She says she suffered, well, not as much as some other people.
No misery poker. None of that. We ain't doing that, okay? You can't quantify suffering. It's not a competition, okay? Okay. Moving on?
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay. I'm not mad at you. I just think we should do this properly, dignified, respectable. There should be certain rules that we stick to, okay?
Okay.
Just let me take the lead and everything will be fine.
Alright.
And
the pilot's, worst fate being luck. Well, I know a Jedi who was unlucky, and yet he turned out successful as a failed Jedi could.
Okay, so Sam, this is kind of the problem I'm talking about here. You're talking about stuff that's kind of barely related to the story itself, and I get it.
There's nothing to talk about. You said it yourself.
I know. I was just getting to that. But I still don't think we need to get that desperate. Iden Versio was at the Battle of Yavin 2. I'm not talking about her because that won't add anything to the context of the story for our
Iden
viewers.
Versio was at the Battle of Yavin?
You never read Inferno Squad?
No.
Okay, I read it all the way back when Battlefront 2 came out. Well, Battlefront 2 2017, that is.
Looks like I've hit rock bottom. Someone hand me a shovel.
I mean, once you hit rock bottom, aren't you supposed to stop digging? Isn't that the entire point of rock bottom?
Not the way I use rock bottom. Not the way. Just when I thought I'd hit rock bottom, someone hands you a shovel.
Where do you get that quote from?
I heard it here and there, somewhere, and let's just say I know it now.
Okay, we've been off topic long enough, and I apologize for the inconvenience to you as well as to our viewers. I hope you can forgive me.
Yeah.
Okay, good. 15. It was as still as a morgue in the command center. Kate Hayes entered quietly, moving around the edge of the room to where she could keep an eye on the tracking board. Three of her crew chiefs had made it inside, pressed against the wall. Venice, Oli, and Was. I think they're all new, but I'm gonna have to check that. They gave her the slightest nod of acknowledgement. Nobody else noticed her. Everyone was concentrating, listening. General Dodana and Princess Organa, along with one or two others and a prodigal droid, were gathered around the map display in the center of the room. Case looked at her datapad. If the ships, the pilots, and their crews were the focus of her life, then the datapad was the nucleus. On it she kept everything relating to her duties. Manifest for equipment and munitions, a detailed list of spare parts for every make and model of Fighter Base 1 could field, the names and assignments of every member of her crew, with notes on their specialties, their strengths, their weaknesses, Y-wing influx rephase not processing at full. Y-wing influx rephase not processing on full efficiency. Put Dart and Bailey on it. 8 of it singing again in minutes. Stuck repeating blaster mounts on a U-wing. Give Bendis a hydro spinner, and if that didn't work, let her whack at the mount with the blunt end until it behaved. She even had an inventory of flight suits and helmets, and an icon guide just in case one pilot's helmet was ever mixed up with another's. Okay, that might explain the inconsistent designs of the pilot helmets.
Oh yeah, just thought about this. About strengths and weaknesses for X-Wing pilots, we've kept those pilots that have ridiculous-looking weaknesses grounded here, and so they won't interfere with the good squads at the Battle of Yavin. For example, this one guy from Gold Squadron who's afraid of the color yellow.
Wait a minute, is that a Green Lantern reference?
Yes, it is. A Green Lantern joined Gold Squadron.
I get the joke. I mean, the Y-Wings aren't actually yellow, except in the Clone Wars. She also had the roster of pilots. Kay switched her attention to the fighter tracking board, listening and watching. The initial attack on the station had begun. Gold and Red squadrons each making preliminary assaults to degrade the Death Star's defenses. Kay tracked the small dots and squares, the X-Wings and Y-Wings moving in two dimensions along the edge glass. Gold 1, John Dutch Vander, 19,997 flight hours. You get it? Because the special editions came out in 1997. Oh dear. Force, we're reaching for stuff to talk about here. Quadruple Ace, 22 confirmed kills. Broke his squadron, taking to Gold 2, Tex Tyree, 5,682 flight hours. Double Ace, 13 confirmed kills. And Gold 5, Davish Pops Krail, 7,603 flight hours. Ace, 7 confirmed kills on approach for the Meridian Trench. The remaining 5 Y-Wings in the element split, that's holding back as Red Leader brought his group from across the Axis trying to draw their fire. Then Gold 7, Gazdo Wolcott, 4,816 flight hours, 4 confirmed kills. Pretty sure that's another Rogue One character. Vanished from the board without warning. Anti-ship battery fire, Case told herself. She checked her datapad and marked his name and added a note, Flak. Red Squadron was engaging the surface batteries now, trying to clear the way for Gold 1's elements. Red 3, Big Starklighter, 5,874 flight hours. Triple Ace, 16 confirmed kills. Okay, and that brings up a question. Because if the scene at the beginning of... If the deleted scene at the beginning of A New Hope, where Biggs meets with Luke right before the events of the movie, and at that point, Biggs still hasn't even joined the Imperial fleet yet, much less the Rebels, that would indicate that there has to be like almost a year time skip. I mean, not time skip, but the events between then and the Battle of Yavin itself have to be several months in order for Biggs to rack up all those years. Unless that scene isn't canon, which would be the much easier option, because if, like, Biggs has been part of the Rebels for a few years at this point, that would make so much more sense, and I'm definitely overthinking it, and go ahead and start taking shots. Once again, we are running out of things to talk about here.
Just one of the biggest, Josh just explained one of the biggest questions of the galaxy with Biggs' time at the Imperial Academy. It's like, do aliens in the Star Wars universe get acne, or just humans? That's a question that is unanswerable.
I'm pretty sure it's easy to answer. It's just that nobody wants to answer it, because who in their right mind gets hired to write a Star Wars novel and decides to add in stuff about alien acne? Hell, who in their right mind gets hired to write a Star Wars novel and decides to add in stuff about human acne? Anyways. She called his target Red 6, Jack Tono Porkins, 10,499 flight hours, Double Ace, 14 confirmed kills. Following him in, and I've got a problem here, Red 6 says. Eject, Red 2 said. I can hold it. Case looked through the board to where was had, even in the poor light in the edges of the room, gone pale. Red 6 was one of his ships, tended by his crew. Porkins had only very recently, arrived at Base 1, brought in to take over for the grounded Wes Jansen. Unassigned, 9,869 flight hours, Ace, 8 confirmed kills. Jansen! We love Jansen, right?
Ah, Wes Jansen. Yeah, I remember him. Rogue and Wraith Squadron. Yeah, he's basically Wedge's second.
And possible boyfriend. I'm joking.
Yeah, Wes Jansen, he's Wedge's second. Then Tycho's like, but Wedge, I thought I was your second. Nope, you're like his third.
Holy cool. I'm kidding. Alright, moving on. Jansen had expressed concerns about the electricals on the fighter, in particular some of the glitching he'd been experiencing with his Astromech's interface to the X-Wing's augmented sensor package. Was that assured Casey gone over the fighter millimeter by millimeter, that the ship was good. It was good to fly. Pull up! Red 2, almost shouting now. No, I'm alright. There was a flash of static as Red 6's comm channel flared out almost in time, but not before everyone heard him start to scream. Was looked at Case shattered. Nettered. Case checked her pad, marked off Red 6 Porkins, and then added mechanical? Yeah, in the movie, what exactly killed Porkins is not made very clear. Anyways, when she looked up again, was it gone? Then the Empire launched their fighters. The battle over the Death Star lasted another 17 and a half minutes. Really? Felt longer. Case ticked the names on her datapad without emotion. She made a note with each loss and where she was uncertain of the cause. In the movie itself, they say that the Death Star will be at range of 30 minutes. It's weird that all that time goes by so fast. Anyways, she made a note with each loss, and where she was uncertain of the cause, she added a question mark. She concentrated on her job, moving attention from the pad in her hand to the tracking board and back over and over again. Tie, flack, tie, flack, flack, tie, flack, tie, flack, tie. I think that's a lot more than just... I'm gonna have to go back and count them later. Red leader, we're right above you, said Red 5. Turn to point 5, we'll cover for you. Case looked up from her datapad. Stay there, Red leader ordered. I just lost my starboard engine. Get set up for your attack run. Garvin Dress. She never had the nerve to tell him about her crush, to say anything, to do anything. He was always a professional. The whole command center heard his scream as he was shot down. Case made a note. Tie advanced tactically. X1, not V1. There were 4 ships left. Only 4. Gold 3, Avon Berlin, 3,637 flight hours. 4 confirmed kills. R.I.P. The key and Varlander gone, but still tactically canon. Gets the background character of Return of the Jedi. Anyways.
I just thought about this. I just thought about how much harder the Battle of Yavin would have been if there were TIE defenders. Good thing they're all gone.
Yeah. They really wasted a lot of money on the Death Star instead. Too bad Thrawn didn't stick around. Wonder where Morgan Elsbeth was during all this. Anyways. Red 2, Red 3, and Red 5. Gold 3 had tried to get around behind the elements that had claimed Gold Leader and Red Leader attack pods, but her Y-Wing didn't have the speed and didn't have the maneuverability, and she was forced to do what she could from above, trying to stay alive amid the combined fire from the Death Star's turbo lasers and the TIE fighters still hunting above the trench. Then Red 2 took a hit, and Case moved her hand, ready to make her notes, and she heard Red 5 ordering him off. The regret in Wedge Antilles' voice came through loud and clear, but he did as ordered. I'm sorry, but in the movie he does not sound regretful. Sorry! It's awkward and embarrassed. Best way to describe it. Case was mildly surprised that the TIEs let him go. Oh.
I just thought about this. Next wing pilot's hit, then says, I need to go back to Yavin and refuel. He does that. He's all like, great, now I can go back and fight the Empire. I don't want to miss a bit of the action. Death Star blows up. The X-Wing pilot realizes he missed all the action and starts cursing in every single possible language.
Most unfortunate. Her eye tracked his travel on the board, watched as Gold 2 maneuver to assist Red 3. Red 2 maneuvered to assist Gold 3. The Death Star was in range of Yavin 4. Case watched the board. Red 3 vanished from the screen. She checked the line Red 3 Dark Leader and dutifully added the word TIE. Red 5 was somehow still flying. He'd taken a hit earlier dogfighting a TIE, and the repair made by his astromech had now broken free. She imagined him trying to control the X-Wing, wondering if he had ever, in fact, flown an X-Wing before or even anything like it. Wondering if he could keep the fighter, now with a broken port stabilizer, steady enough to make his shot at the exhaust port, without at the same time turning himself into an easy target in the shooting gallery the Meridian Trench had become. His computer's off, someone said. He switched off his targeting computer. Luke, your targeting computer's off. What's wrong? Case tensed. Red 5 had been one of Bennis's ships, part of her crew. This was another mechanical. Nothing, said Red 5. I'm all right. The command center had been as still as a morgue when Case entered it, now had the silence of the same. Nobody moved, each of them processing what they had just heard. There was a fizz of static in electronic wail. I've lost R2! That would be his astromech then. Case found the line on her datapad that read...
3PO. No! Why do I go to these movies?
Okay, that's a good joke. Red 5, Skywalker. There was truly no point in continuing now. It was clearly over. The Death Star cleared Yavin, which was at this very instant preparing to fire on Yavin 4. In a few more seconds, a minute perhaps, everyone and everything here would go the way of Oberon. Pilots, ships, crews, datapads, all of them, everything would cease to exist. The rebellion would cease to exist. But the Empire would continue. A voice cut across the comm in the command center, broke the silence. The voice was yelling, but it wasn't in pain. It sounded to Case an awful lot like glee. Well, so did Dreas's. The actor is clearly smiling. Anyways. You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home, the voice said. Her eyes went to the tracking board to the call-out for Red 5. She saw the notification flicker across the glass. Torpedoes away, it said. Nobody dared to breathe. Then, just as silently and without any fuss, on every monitor that had shown the graphic representing the Death Star, the graphic winked out. The call-out on the tracking board in front of Case was the last to go, the image of the Death Star far too big to be shown on the glass, represented only by the simple words, Battle Station, on the center of the board. Then those two words vanished as well. The voice was saying something, but Case couldn't understand it. Nobody could understand it, because suddenly everyone was in motion and everyone was making noise, hugging one another, jumping up and down as they laughed, as they screamed in triumph, as they poured out their relief and their joy. Exactly like the Colt Ackbright story. So redundant. Case saw the princess through the glass look skyward, mouthing something, then run for the exit. General Dodonna followed after her, into a scrum of men and women rushing to clear the room to get to the hangar to welcome the pilots home. Bennis and Ole were watching for her in the doorstep. I'll catch up, Case told them. They nodded and rushed out after all of the others. Case was alone. She stood still for several seconds, datapad in her hands, then very carefully she switched it off and laid it on the nearby console. She tried to take a step and succeeded, and tried to take another one and failed, and she collapsed with the sob already rising out of her, and the tears already beginning to fall. The grave got her. Okay. Now we move on to the not really, the technically not... Sorry. Just trying to find a comfortable position here. Hey, Sam, that's kind of noisy.
What, this? Oh, that.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
How is that noisy?
I think there's something wrong with my ears. Sorry, I'll try to ignore it. You can just keep doing it. I didn't mean to annoy you. I didn't mean to bother you. Just go ahead. You can... Okay.
Like a little kitty cat.
Yep, it's cute. I should not be doing these when I'm this tired and hungry. Hey, at the very least I'm not hungover. Alcohol, one of the few vices I don't have. Anyways... Contingency Plan by Alexander Freed. In the very near future, no more than a day from now, there's going to be a battle above the fourth moon of Yavin. Scored and pitted X-Wings will launch from the moon's jungle, condensation boiling off their hulls as they emerge from the atmosphere under the light of a red gas giants. I think I'm familiar with the name Alexander Freed. I'll have to look it up. The squadron will race toward a space station armed with nightmarish weapons dreamed up by bitter old men. Yeah, they weren't that old. Well, the X-Wing pilots, young and ambitious and good-hearted youths who have already seen their share of bloodshed, will seek to exploit a vulnerability in the station and ignite its reactor core. But their hurriedly assembled plan will fare poorly against the designs of the bitter old men. One by one, their starfighters will be destroyed. The space station will enter the moon's orbit, where it will emit an obliterating beam that disintegrates every storied stone of an ancient and haunting temple, along with the temple's inhabitants, along with the rest of the moon besides. This is not the future Mon Mothma hopes for, but it isn't an unlikely one. I could overrule you, she says as she diligently transfers a stack of data pads from her desk to a metal case. She double-checks the files on each device before stowing it. She reviews rebel cell listings, coded contact frequencies, safe house locations, stolen Imperial documents. 20 years of work reduced to a courier package, she thinks. Overrule me? To what end? Even if things go well, you can't help us. We'll need to dismantle the whole base. Jan Dodonna raises his hands helplessly in the doorway to Mon's office. Hey, it's Jan. They love Jan, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, everyone just calls him Dodonna. Remember Admiral Forn Dodonna from KOTOR 1? Gee, I am so reaching for things to talk about.
Oh yeah, Form Dodonna. This is her descendant. Also the descendant of a Senator Dodonna. And, well, it's a long list of Dodonnas, okay?
Wait. No, I'm getting mixed up. Anyway. Sorry, getting a really bad headache. I'll try to power through. Just half an hour more. We're halfway there. Things don't go well. Okay, Sam, I actually can hear it. I'm sorry. It's a little distracting.
What? Oh, yeah.
He works his lips before the words finally form. Mon, you won't just be leading the rebellion. You'll be all that's left. They probably should have gotten themselves more spread out. Single base, not good. Mon doesn't flinch. She learned to suppress the instinct, as the instinct in the Senate, back when there was a Senate, but she slams the case shut too hard. The snap of the latches echoes in the small chamber. I want every droid in the complex ready to analyze those stations' schematics once the princess lands. If they're tracking her, if her signal was accurate, the Empire won't wait long to follow. Did she give that order already? She wonders. She hasn't slept in over 3 days. Facts and intentions are blurring together. She brushes past Jan, who follows her down stone steps toward the hangar in the jungle's tapering drizzle. Cyan appears at Mon's side with a pair of duffels slung over her shoulders. Fresh clothes and small arms, Cyan explains, along with a few mementos. Pretty sure Cyan is new. Too bad Cyan didn't show up in Andor. Reaching for stuff to talk about.
You know who should really be here? Luthen.
Too bad he didn't exist yet. Amazing how these things work. Cyan served Mon in the capital before Mon began moonlighting in treason. Since then, since Mon's flight from the Empire and public endorsement of the rebellion, she's barely left Mon's side. She probably added the evacuation to my daily calendar. I spoke to the comm crew. Cyan goes on. They move onto the tarmac and into a wet, tepid breeze. We'll contact Base 1 every 90 minutes for updates. The Empire may jam our transmissions or try to trace incoming signals, Jan adds. If you can't make contact, don't keep trying forever. He hesitates as they approach a passenger shuttle covered in fading pastel graffiti. Mon doesn't recognize the alien alphabet. Do what has to be done, Commander. Sabine? He snaps a salute. Raindrops wiggle between his fingers. Mon can't recall ever seeing him salute her before. She reads it as a final farewell. Give my thanks to the princess when she arrives, Mon says. And my condolences, she wants to add, because she knew the princess's father so very well. But it's no use thinking about Bail right now. Yep, this whole thing was just an elaborate explanation for why Mon Mothma wasn't in A New Hope. But it's still a pretty fun story regardless. Also obligatory, I miss Garmbel Iblis, please make him canon again.
You and me both, brother.
Don't call me brother, Abe.
Okay, yeah. Well, I meant that as... forget it. You and me both. That's what I meant.
That's better. Also, thank you very much. Sorry, I'm a bit grumpy today. Just kinda in a bad mood. But, sorry. I am so sorry for everything. I'll feel better next time. I'm sorry, Sam. Hope you can forgive me. She would embrace Jan, but there are flight crews watching and they need to see her strength. Instead, she climbs aboard the shuttle, clutching her metal case in both hands. Cyan holds herself in behind Mon, seals the hatch, and calls orders to the pilots. As the vessel rises from the tarmac, leaving the rebels of Yevon to fight for their lives against an impossible foe, Mon wonders whether Jan understands at all what has to be done. Like Mon, Jan is simultaneously practical and idealistic. He may well understand, and that thought breaks Mon's heart. In the future, or in a future, a not unlikely future, the obliteration of Yavin 4 will send the remnants of the rebellion into a panic. Mon will try to reestablish contact with the surviving rebel cells to implement some sort of coherent strategy, but she'll be left impotent amid the chaos. Her shuttle will jump from star system to star system, constantly fleeing pursuit, and she'll spend hours daily listening to static on her comm units and watching her life's work fall apart. The scattered rebels will seek refuge among civilians, but will find no haven. The destruction of Alderaan, a peaceful world, a beloved world home to billions, will have convinced the ordinary people of the Empire that they cannot afford to show complicity in rebel crimes. It, of course, had the opposite effects in the actual timeline, because, once the Empire no longer had the Death Star, it only showed their willingness to do something like that, but not their capability. Which, the thing about making people afraid is that once you lose the thing that makes them afraid of you, suddenly that fear turns into hatred overnight. But that's a philosophical issue for another time. It's one thing to endanger oneself for a cause, after all, another to endanger one's entire home planet. Stormtroopers will massacre the last remaining insurgents, hunting them relentlessly through deserts and treetops and hollowed-out asteroids. That would be a fun little, albeit depressing, story. One day, a death squad will find Mon Mothma and Cyan hiding in their shuttle in the radiation belt of a black hole. The shuttle's engines will be non-functional, its fuel spent. Without scanners, they won't notice the TIE fighters until it's too late. Within the decade, the rebellion Mon built will be erased from history and erased from consciousness. Soon after, even the Empire's censors will begin to forget the past. Like what happened to the Jedi. Wonder what Mon foresees for them in this crazy, bad future. There are 4, maybe 5 safe houses in range that we believe are secure and well supplied. Also, 2 habitable planets off the Imperial charts, if you're willing to go without infrastructure. The mobile squadrons haven't managed to regroup, so we shouldn't count on those. Cyan goes on as Mon's seed vibrates with the turbulence of hyperspace. Mon only half listens. She knows all this. There are details that escaped her mind. She lacks the encyclopedic knowledge of rebel assets that some of her peers in high command possess, but no one is more than aware than her of the Alliance's capabilities and limits. The princess should be arriving on Yavin 4 any moment now. No safe houses. Mon dismisses the option with a wave. No hiding in deep space. If there's any point at all in our survival, we won't prove it in isolation. Cyan's first duty, as she sees it, is the safety of the Senator. Mon knows this because Cyan has said so. But Cyan also knows when it's pointless to argue, and she doesn't argue now. Alright, she says, we could try to contact ground forces in the rim worlds. Bit of a gamble, but it would be a start. Because that's what this means. Starting over. Exhaustion. Hey, maybe they can... No. Sorry, I'm really reaching for stuff to talk about here. Exhaustion subsumes Mon like a rising tide. She remembers the metal case nestled between her feet, the 20 years of work in a courier package. She remembers her first meetings with Bale and the others when she was practically a child and so certain of her own experience and ability. Hey, I think we might actually get to see that in one of the Padme books. I should check it. She had imagined toppling the Emperor in a matter of months, not decades. Oh, I think that's actually what happens in, the first reign of the Empire novel. Is that Mask of Fear? No, I'm pretty sure Mask of Fear is the Vader one.
No, Reign of the Empire, Mask of Fear is... yeah, it's definitely one of those books, and, well, I don't know if it's the first, but it's definitely one of them.
Man, I should keep more up to date on the novels. Anyways. Not the rim worlds, Mon says. Her voice is commanding, loud enough for the pilot to hear. He'll draw inspiration from her, even if Cyan won't. We go to Coruscant. Heart of the Empire, heart of the galaxy. I mean, that is the last place the Empire would expect her to go. The pilot swears. Cyan hesitates, mentally assembling the pieces and scratching her coherence. The Senate, she says. Disbanded or not, it's a powerful voice. And after Alderaan, the senators will have to back you. I wonder what happened to all those senators. Perhaps.
What happened to all the senators? Gone. Kicked them all out.
I'm surprised Phelps didn't just have them all meet with mysterious accidents. Probably because, that happening to, 1,000 different people at once would have been suspicious even for him. Perhaps, Mon says, and adds nothing more, because while she's good at lying, she never did develop the taste for it. In another future, the rebellion will live on in the days after the annihilation of Alderaan.
Well, that does remind me. Senator Yorn of Bureaucratosis met with an accident after refusing to leave the Senate chambers.
Pretty sure his name is Jan.
Jan of Bureaucratosis.
Blah, 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 blah. Oh, Lego Star Wars is comedy gold. Totally not biased by childhood nostalgia, but anyways. In another future, the rebellion will live on in the days after the annihilation of Yavin 4 and Alderaan and Yavin 4. Not just live, but grow as the Empire's atrocities become public, and Mon Mothma and the Senate in exile kindle support. The destruction of Base 1 will prove a blow to the structure, but not the spirit of the Rebel Alliance. There will be a true revolution, uprisings unlike any the galaxy has seen that will erupt on 1,000 worlds. Hey, just like what happened at the end of Rise of Skywalker. Then the Empire will respond.
Yeah, Rise of Skywalker. That did happen with the giant fleet.
No, I mean, at the end, we get the montage of the various worlds throughout the galaxy, and...
Oh yeah, they don't have a navy. It's not a navy, it's people.
No, not that. Sorry. Like I said, I'm in a bad mood.
What are you talking about?
When we see Endor and...
Oh, that! Now I remember. Yeah. Endor, Cloud City.
Were you not finished?
Yeah, I'm finished now.
It's weird that montage is so forgettable because it's kind of an integral part of the lore because it's required for there to be a big happy ending. Every single First Order fleet throughout the galaxy has to be simultaneously attacked at once by the local insurgents and such. Every world that defies the Galactic Emperor will be destroyed. The space station, the planet killer, will be used, not as a threat, but as a weapon of absolute terror. The Emperor and his bitter old men will prove crueler than anyone imagines. Hey, Tarkin. And though not quite a name drop, how many worlds will die before blood quenches the rebellion's fire? Will Mon call his endless oceans boil? Getting legacy flashbacks. Will the Thorn communes of Menthusa burn? Menthusa, where's I heard that before? Will the ancient cityscape of Denon turn to ruins? Wait, isn't Denon a loyal Imperial world? Will 2, 3, a dozen, 100 worlds fall? The galaxy is large. The Empire is unimaginably strong. For its leaders, there is no sacrifice too great to ensure its survival. I mean, yeah, when you get thousands, maybe even 1,000,000 worlds, what is a few hundred here and there? Mon will give up eventually, of course. She's not a monster. She's learned to stomach sending children into battle, but she'll never abide the loss of whole planets.
Oh yeah. Will Mon calls endless oceans boil? Me, as a Legacy fan, says, I understood that reference.
Funnily enough, I'm not sure if it was even a deliberate reference. Alexander Free doesn't seem like a read the Legacy comics kind of guy. Mon Mothma can't actually see the future. She used to know people who could, but the last of them is dead now too. Poor Obi-Wan. He will be missed. No word from base, Senator, Cyan said, as she's arranging a meal on a serving tray. Stewed beans and bread and a tin cup of steaming calf, all procured from who knows where. Doesn't sound so bad. Utensils clink softly and a umami scent fills Mon's nostrils. We'll signal again in 90 minutes. For all we know, Private Harge still hasn't figured out the comm units. Harge? What about Lentra? Went to scare her, Cyan says. She doesn't say and didn't come back. The notion of eating makes Mon ill. How often has she dined while others fought for their lives? The wounds she sustains never bleed. She has no corporeal scars to assure her that she's suffered for her cause. She recognizes the indulgent self-pity in this line of thinking, but can't entirely banish it. Hashtag relatable. She eats. Cyan does not. It's all right to mourn, Mon says softly. We may not have another chance for a while. Cyan taps her left temple. Biochemical regulatory implants. It keeps my stress hormones in check. God, do I want one. She looks directly at Mon. Besides, most of the people I know are still on Yevon. Mourning would be premature. By now, it might not be, Mon thinks, though she knows Cyan is aware of this. Still, she likes hearing Cyan act hopeful. It reminds her of Bale. Through the blur of sleeplessness, she imagines his ghost and asks, was it painful when Alderaan died? Did you know what was happening? Did you think we lost? It's kind of funny because we actually read that short story and we know the answers to all of those questions. Mon finishes no more than half the meal. She prompts Cyan multiple times until her aide finally dines on the beans and bread remaining, more eagerly than Mon did. We should have waited for the princess, Mon says. Extracted her as well. Cyan only shrugs. She wouldn't have come, and trying might have left us with no time to escape. I owe her father, Mon says. Bale owed you, so does she. She's paying off that debt now. Mon has heard reasoning like this before. It's reasoning that can excuse any number of deaths, and it almost works. But Mon has other reasons to wish Princess Leia had been evacuated. The girl is young, and the galaxy has enough bitter old minds trying to shape it to their respective visions. I wonder how things would have played out differently if Bale had let Mon in on the secret about who Leia really is. Now that would make for a fun fanfic. I'll add it to the list. In another future, Mon will walk the hallways of the Imperial Palace, her white robes in contrast to the dark tile and the crimson armor of her escorts. Perhaps she will ache from bruises sustained in her capture. More likely, she will be in perfect health. After all, she will be there by choice. The Emperor will meet her in his throne room, not to interrogate her, though Mon has heard he conducts certain interrogations personally, but to look down upon her and smile. You will be interrogated, tortured. You will give me the names of your friends and allies, and then you will die. Good old Force Unleashed.
There may be a rebellion yet.
Lord Vader, deal with the boy. Okay, we're getting off topic. But to look down upon her and smile, that withered wax-faced smile. Senator Mothma, it is so good to finally be reunited. He'll say this, or something equally unctuous. She will be at his mercy forever. Her rebel alliance, the revolution she built on a foundation of bones, will cease to be. The murder of Alderaan, the defeat at Yavin, and the surrender of its commander-in-chief.
I'm just upset at Mon Mothma for thinking like that. Because if she believes the rebellion can easily be defeated and the only way out is surrender, then the founder of the Rebel Alliance died on that unfinished Death Star for nothing.
Good old Galen. He's so adorable and cuddly. Too early in his life to be a martyr. You know he was like 17? Not even old enough to be... No, not making that joke. Not even about a fictional character. Sorry, bit of a prude. The revolution she built on a foundation of bones will cease to be. The murder of Alderaan, the defeat at Yavin, and the surrender of its commander-in-chief will be blows the organization cannot recover from. There will be Imperial cleanup operations, but no more planets will die. Why should they, when the Emperor has everything he's ever desired? Mon will be humiliated. She will be asked to renounce her cause publicly, and she will do so. She knows the Emperor well enough to expect she won't be executed. Rather, she will be kept alive, on the off chance he needs to use her as a warning to his enemies. In time, she will be forgotten. In time, her mistakes will be forgotten. Her arrogance will be forgotten. Her complicity in the deaths of billions on Alderaan will be forgotten. Mon Mothma is responsible for her own failures. How can she believe she has the right to start the cycle over again, to rebuild the same rebellion that was defeated once already? In the future, she will live her life in darkness. For a time, perhaps someone else will find a better answer. Or the Or the Vong show up and become the wreckers of every one ship. Oh, man. Or IG-88A triggers a droid revolution. Or any number of very, very bad things happen. And, like I said, fictional characters. And made to suffer for our entertainment. Mon writes with furious urgency, tapping words into her datapad as her metal case trembles between her ankles. She needs to complete the speech before they reach Coruscant, though that isn't why she races through it. Instead, she's driven by the overwhelming need to confess, to disavow her life's work and all the horrors it has bred. The speech isn't one of her best, and it won't get much better. She doesn't have time to redraft. She doesn't have anyone to critique her style and rhetoric. She won't let Cyan learn the truth until it's too late. She looked from the case at her feet to the cockpit, where Cyan and the pilot are hunched over the main console. Carefully, she sets her datapad to the side and opens the case. She transfers its contents to the gap under her seats. Cyan or the pilot will find the secrets of the Rebel Alliance stashed there until after Mon is gone. They can judge how to use it all themselves. Like the princess, they're young enough to choose their own future, their own means of rebellion. Mon has abrogated any right to choose for them. She's failed at her task. Maybe others will do it better. No, she tells herself. There's no time left for dreams. Chan said it himself. Do what has to be done. She still has the rest of the journey to change her mind, to find another way. She doesn't believe she'll succeed. When laughter emerges from the cockpit, she can't entirely comprehend it. She hears Cyan's voice before the pilot joins in. Mon furrows her brow as her aide rushes into the cramped passenger lounge. We heard from Base 1, Cyan says. Her eyes glitter wetly. And, Mon asks, they destroyed the Death Star. We won. In the very near future, Mon will reunite with her surviving colleagues in high commands. The Alliance will rally in the wake of its extraordinary victory, and its message will spread like starlight to 1,000 worlds. Rebels too young to know democracy, regret, or a lover's kiss will strike at the Empire again and again under Mon's leadership. She will never speak of her Yavin 4 contingency plan. The conflict will not end swiftly. The destruction of the Emperor's space station will only amplify the violence. Mon will watch the harnage from safety, from hidden bases in the jungle and under sheets of ice, sending children to die with the swipe of a finger on a tactical map. If victory comes, and it may not, it may still... Sending children to die with the swipe of a finger on a tactical map. It is acceptable, under certain circumstances, to spend lives to achieve victory. What is not acceptable is to waste those lives. Okay, now that is a reference that definitely nobody is getting. Anyways, if victory comes, and it may not, it may still all prove pointless. She may even go through this a second time with the second space station. Dramatic irony. It will take many more years, but Mon believes in victory again. As her shuttle adjusts course, her newfound hope crushes her like gravity and steals the air from her lungs. She does not hesitate to delete her message of surrender, but she longs for its simplicity, the endless peace of submission to despair. A new scar is etched across her spirit now, the work of the Emperor's greatest weapon. She does not weep at her burden. She gives orders to Cyan and steels herself for the years of war to come.
The Angle by Charles Soule. For light and for life!
Oh, right, he did write a lot of High Republic books. You ask me, Alderaan had it coming, Lando Calrissian said, playing it all high and mighty as they did. Boo! Boo!
Hey, that's my home planet you're talking about. And Tycho's home planet. And Leia's home planet.
Too soon! Too soon! So you believe the rumors? Jeff responded. You really think the Imperials... Jeff. Of course, there's no one in the Star Wars universe named Jeff. You really think the Imperials destroyed an entire planet? Well, something turned Alderaan into a bunch of little rocks, and it seems like the Empire's style. I don't... You know what I mean, right? Right. Lando flicked his gaze across the table. Just a quick little scan across the pile of fleshy folds the Verosian called a face. Verosian, that sounds familiar. I'll have to check that. Jeff Bassan was strange looking, even in a galaxy with no lack of strange. Alien DNA walking around every day. Okay, I'll cool it with the obscure references. Lando wanted to catch his reaction to that last statement, but, without being obvious about it. He didn't want the other guy to figure out he was being played. Jav was no amateur, though. His face maintained the same bland expression, the Verosian equivalent of a pleasant, non-committal smile that he'd kept on his face for the entire game so far. Lando and Jav sat across from each other at a low table, drinks in front of them, surrounded on all sides by a silent audience. Wealthy degenerates from all across the galaxy. Activity at the other gambling stations in the casino had slowed to a crawl as word spread ahead of what was happening here. An actual game of click-clack between Lando Calrissian and Jeff Bassan. Click-clack was named for the sounds made by a large insect native to the forest of Lapoina where the game was invented. Nothing to do with Geonosians. The bugs called out to each other click and answered clack, the sounds traveling for kilometers through the trees. And that was the game just a conversation. Each player got one card from a standard Sabacc deck. Then, for a little while, they just talked, had a little chat about whatever they felt like. To an observer, click-clack usually seemed pretty light, pretty casual. It wasn't. When the allotted time was up, each player pressed a single button on the table between them, locking in the one decision required by the game's rules. Whether their card was higher or lower than the other guy's. That was it, the entire thing. You won by being right when your opponent was wrong. If you both guessed right or both guessed wrong, the game was a push. But the house still took its 10% commission, the worst possible outcome. Yes, the house always wins. Never gamble. Never even set foot in a casino. It's all a glorified scam. Trust me, people. There was some dignity in losing, but am I going full Puritan? I should flog myself for this. There was some dignity in losing, but when nobody won but the house, forget Alderaan, that would be a tragedy. The trick to click-clack was the conversation. You had to use those 10 minutes or so not only to try to figure out what your opponent had, high or low, but also to get them to guess the way you wanted them to go. You had to figure them out and misdirect them at the same time. Lando loved it, if gambling could ever be called art. And as far as Lando Calrissian was concerned, it absolutely could. Yeah, Lando Calrissian would say that. Then click-clack was its highest expression. Jav was a tough opponent, though. Lando didn't know much about Verosian physiology. Always a tricky situation, especially since humans were among the most common species in the galaxy. You gotta maximize relatability. That made them underdogs in games like Click-Clack. Jav probably knew what most human facial expressions signified. Lando was flying blind, trying to piece together what a little tremble of the antenna might mean, or a slow, languid blink of an ocular membrane. Still, exhilarating. And what do you mean, Jav said. Well, didn't the Empire get all up in your planet's business too? Jav made the sort of wobbly snort that passed for a chuckle. They're in everyone's business, aren't they? Not mine, Lando said. I stay clear. That is my business. Oh, really, Jav said. I thought I was losing at cards. A little held breath from the audience, as they would see how Lando would respond. But insults were part of the game, nothing to get all worked up about. Lando glanced around the room at the watchers. Beings from more than 20 different worlds, united by a single expression of rapt fascination. I mean, humans are the most common species in the galaxy, so 20 different worlds could all just be human colonies, They were watching two masters at work, and they knew it. But Lando grinned self-deprecatingly, lifted one arm to the crowd, out, letting himself be the butt of the joke, giving the audience permission to laugh with him.
Oh yeah, about the game Click-Clack and the Geonosis reference. Here's my idea for that. Click-Clack. Is that a Geonosian reference? You're weak and a fool. But Geonosis! Bug people!
Yeah. Okay, that was a really good reference and a really good impression. I'm impressed. United by a single expression of rapt fascination. They were watching two masters at work, and they knew it. Lando grinned self-deprecatingly, lifting one arm to the crowd, letting himself be the butt of the joke, giving the audience permission to laugh with him. He took over the moment, not watching Jav's reaction, but of course he was absolutely watching Jav's reaction. And there it was, the tiniest flush of green on the folds of his neck, the same flush he'd seen when Lando had mentioned the Empire. Japasan came from Veros, and Veros had once been an extremely wealthy planet. Technically, it was still a wealthy planet, but what the wealth was now in the hands of the Empire, instead of the bank accounts of the familial alliances that had ruled the planets for centuries, one of which was the venerable House of Basan. Okay, I'm going to need to do research on all of this, and I'll have plenty of time to do so because, well, we're not getting to the rest of this until tomorrow at the earliest.